being Filipino can come in many different ways. Even if you become Americanized, there's still the Philippines in you. Makasaysayang araw po sa inyong lahat. Ako po si Xiao Chua, the historian of the Filipino story. And welcome to Ask Xiao! Ay talaga naman na-miss ko po kayong lahat. Salamat po sa suporta na binigay nyo sa The Filipino Story. Let's spread the word about the Filipino story para marami pa ho ang makakilala sa ating dakilang lahi. Okay, so let's begin. It's Xiao time! At Katrina, hey! Why do us Fil Ams get in trouble for wearing the Philippine flag during graduation? What's the right way to rep our flag? There was a law that was created by Philippine Congress, signed by Fidel Ramos. It's called the Flag and Heraldic Code of the Philippines, or Republic Act 8491. It says here that the flag and the national anthem should be respected. There are certain rules to be followed in the display of the Philippine flag. So for example, in a time of peace, the blue should stand at the upper side of the flag. In a time of war, you put the red. There are also rules like on a stage, the Philippine flag should be at the left side. Or in a row of flags, the Philippine flag should either be on the farthest left or in the middle, higher than any other flagstaff. This is to show respect, protocol, and standard use of the flag so that everyone from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao have a way of respecting the flag. And one of this is you cannot wear the Philippine flag. Some people might want to put it in bikinis, which is a total desecration of the Philippine flag. You can only use the flag if you're an athlete with a little patch. You cannot have a whole jacket of the Philippine flag. You cannot put it in a design in any products, in any advertisement, and that is why there is actually a penalty. This is the penalty. And for the national anthem, there's only one way of singing the national anthem, and it should be over in a minute. And you cannot change the lyrics, you cannot change how it was sung. But there is a loophole in the law. If you're in the United States, even if they call you out for using the Philippine flag, the jurisdiction of the Republic Act is just in the Republic of the Philippines. But even so, being aware of our flag and heraldic code in the Philippines is a way of respecting that symbol that our heroes defended with their very lives. And that symbol that unifies us when we sing the national anthem and when we look at that flag together, we become one nation. And that is why this symbol should be respected and treated properly. At Island Steph, why do skin whitening products sell so well in the Philippines? This is so interesting. A lot of people point out that our obsession with skin whitening is actually because of colonial mentality. Remember Doña Victorina in the Noli Me Tangere? She powders her face so that it becomes so white so that she can pretend to be a Spaniard. Well, you also remember here how Filipinos actually want to dress up like Americans and how they want to dress up like Koreans, for example. Now, colonial mentality perhaps heightened that kind of obsession with whitening. But if you're going to look at it, it's actually even before colonialism that being white is actually considered as beautiful. Professor Vicente Villan once said to me that in the epics of the Visayas, they gave high premium to binukot who are white. They didn't let their skin be exposed to the sun because they want to maintain their whiteness. And there are epics where it was said that the princesses, the binukots, who are desired by the datus, are actually as puti ng sugpo o balanakon. So we actually felt even before that having light skin is actually special. And you know, the Spaniards actually wrote in their chronicles that many of the women in the Philippines at that time were even whiter than the women in Spain. So that means considering white skin as beautiful is not just because of foreign influences, but it has deep rootedness in our ancient culture. We might find the clue in a study that was taken by the students of Palawan under Dr. Michael Tan. In their study, they found out that a lot of the consumers of skin whitening were actually construction workers. Why? Construction workers, them, they are exposed under the sun. They are like tall, dark, and handsome and all of that. But actually, these people wanted to appear clean, especially if they are courting someone. They wanted to be presentable. So that is why a lot of people use skin whitening in the Philippines.
Because cleanliness on the outside can signal a clean heart within.
At Manila Bread, are jeepneys a pride or a problem? Where did they come from anyway? The jeepneys actually were war surplus that were left by the American armed forces during the Second World War in the Philippines. So they were using the jeepneys for transportation, and then when the war ended, they just left them here. And what did the Filipinos do? Filipino ingenuity. We transformed them into our mini buses. And in many ways, you will see some of the characteristics of the Filipinos. So yung pagkamalikain, there was a time that we put a lot of drawings around the jeepney. We put our faith there, like pictures of Jesus Christ or pictures of our idols, like the movie stars and the musicians and the singers. And you also see there the trait of kapwa. Despite the tight space, you respect the space of each other. And also, you see there the bayanihan spirit. Because if someone is paying from the back, you're going to get that payment and pass it on to the other passenger until it reaches the driver. And in many ways, it became like the symbol of the Filipino. But of course, we also have the context of poverty in the Philippines. So what does this mean? The jeepney drivers, despite working so hard, they have to pay a boundary fee for the jeepneys that they were using. Most of them don't own their jeepneys, and so they have to reach a certain amount that they have to give every day to the owners or the operators of the jeepneys. And so, whatever it is that is left, that is what they bring home to the families. And so, because of this system, many of the drivers struggle a lot. And that's why, in many ways, that reflected on the way they drive. That also reflected in the way they bring or drop passengers, because they have to get more passengers so that they can reach that quota. That is why there's a negative connotation about jeepney drivers. Some call them barubado, they have bad manners and stuff like that. The drivers are not disciplined. They don't stop and pick passengers and drop off passengers in the right places. There's a debate in the Philippines. Some people want to take away the Philippine jeepneys from the roads because they're old, dilapidated. But we also have to consider those that would be left behind. Maybe we should have a more inclusive way of dealing with the jeepney phase-out. Maybe some of the jeepneys should be retained because a lot of people also can pay for the fare of modern jeepneys. But then again, this is an issue that people should keep talking about so that everyone will benefit. At PL Garrido, why is nepotism so rampant in the Philippines? And this is an interesting question. Is Rizal considered a nepo baby? Nepo baby! Okay, remember that this nepo baby issue in the Philippines got so big that we started to check the lifestyle of our politicians, of our business leaders, and see if they've been living in excess. And this actually inspired the Nepalese. They also started their lifestyle checks, which led to the government banning their social media sites to stop talking about the nepo babies. And this triggered the Gen Zs to actually burn their 3 branches of government. Now, in the Philippines, we're quite chill. In fact, there are some people who even say that corruption is not an issue in the Philippines as long as these politicians deliver the ginhawa, the roads, the projects. But this is quite different. And in many ways, we're like waking up to the reality of the worst kind of corruption that was ever invented by Filipinos. The mother of all corruption in the country. That our taxes actually pay for things that were never delivered. This is what Benedict Anderson said, that we Filipinos, we have a cacique democracy. Remember, there were the times of the caciques or the landowners. The landowners, they have their tenants and they're like the bata of the padrino, the patron. And so when you are under a padrino, you're in many ways assured of government seat, of favorable things. And so that extended to family members. So if you have a relative who is powerful in government, then they can put you in positions that maybe you don't deserve, but you're placed there because you're close to the master, to the patron. And so, this is nepotism. Now, when this was appropriated eventually, the term nepo baby was recently coined. Because, for example, if you become a movie star because you're a son or a daughter of a movie star, that's a nepo baby. You actually benefit from your parents' name in the same industry. Of course, you become a politician also when you're a son or a daughter of a politician. That's, of course, a political dynasty. You're being a nepo baby. But in the question that if Rizal is a nepo baby, let's clarify that. Did Rizal
Make a name for himself.
just because he is rich or son of businessmen, or he made a name for himself as a progressive lobbyist, writer, novelist, physician? But he did not have a name for himself just because of his parents. If you have made a name for yourself on your own field, then you're not a nepo baby. Then again, being a nepo baby is not really bad until you live lavishly while your people suffer. And Rizal did not do that. At Felici, so I have to say it in Italian. At Felici. There is a new movie about Quezon. Who is Quezon? Well, basically, Manuel Luis Quezon dominated Philippine politics for the first half of the 20th century. And in the scheme of things, the top 3 national monuments in the Philippines are the Rizal Monument, the Bonifacio Monument, and the Quezon National Monument in Quezon City, which actually, if you're going to look at it, looks like a spaceship. So, Quezon was such a big personality. But basically, Manuel Luis Quezon was the statesman who led the campaign so that we would gain independence from the United States. He was able to secure a bill called the Tidings-McDuffie Law, which brought forth the 10-year transition to Philippine independence called the Philippine Commonwealth. So, what Quezon did was actually to facilitate a smooth transition to independence. How? You might not like this, but by being Janos face. According to Professor Vanny Viernas, most of the Filipinos who supposed to be our leaders in the first half of the 20th century, all of them are dead. So the next generation of Filipino leaders, they did not see that there is a contradiction with pandering to the Americans to be able to deliver the needs of the people and to bring them to independence.
So, Senor Quezon, I congratulate you. All of you.
Mr. President, I want to express to you the thanks of my people.
For a lot of people, Quezon is a bayani because he also gave us a lot of things. Quezon believed in social justice. This was the cornerstone of his administration. Social justice means that those who have less in life should be cared for more by our government. In America, it's a debate whether you should have healthcare or not. In the Philippines, there is no debate that the poor, we should take care of them. And so, Quezon also facilitated the national language so that everyone is included. He facilitated the vote for women. He facilitated the 8-hour law, the minimum wage. He facilitated housing projects. And that is Quezon's legacy. And we look up to him because of that. Now, in the film Quezon, the film explores the concept of bayani. There's a line in the film where Quezon, he said there, being a bayani, it's a perception game. In a way, he felt that colonialism and the colonizers were like, they loomed large in our perception. That's why his character should be greater than the colonizers. He should be gigantic because he wanted the people to have a hope that they can be free. He wanted people to have a hope that there is a better future and that he is, in a way, the embodiment of that hope. At Mickey de la Cruz. Oh, Mickey, you're so fine. You blow my mind. Hey, Mickey. I grew up in the United States my entire life. I can't speak Tagalog. Does that make me less Filipino? Remember that being Filipino can come in many different ways. Language is just one of them. Now, if you have Filipino blood, since you came from Filipino parents or Filipino forebears, even if you become Americanized, there's still the Philippines in you. Sometimes you just don't really realize it. If you cannot speak Filipino or Tagalog, I don't see it as a problem. But if you are connected to a Philippine language, Filipino included, in many ways, that makes you more attuned with your Filipino-ness. Because remember that the language is the bank of your culture. If you want to express something in your culture, you deposit that word in the back of your language and you also withdraw it from there. That's what Xiao Salazar said. Impukan kuhanan ang wika natin. And so, if you really want to totally appreciate and immerse yourself to Philippine culture, it is important to learn the language. But of course, no one should force you. You are not less Filipino because of that. It's just, shall we say, it would be an added bonus to actually really immerse yourself with the culture if you know the language. And you do not really have to be an expert right away. You can start with the words kapwa, bayanihan, and kabutihang loob. Because our language is the soul, the mirror of our culture. When you say, I love you, it hits differently when you say, mahal kita, or iniibig kita. It's like when you speak of concepts like blood compact. In the West, blood compact is just a contract made out of blood. But when you say sandugo means you become one blood. And that's more than a contract. Your blood compact becomes brotherhood, kapatid. Isang dugo, one blood. So, when we talk about Philippine history and culture, gamit ang wika natin, nagkakaroon ng ibang level na, umaakyat sa mas mataas na antas, na nagiging mas makabuluhan, may saysay, yung mga sinasabi natin. Alright, that's it! Thank you for sending your questions. Keep watching, keep sending, keep sharing our social media accounts, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok, and join us in discovering what it means to be Filipino next time in Ask Xiao. Goodbye.